You are now tuned into Real Talk Sports with Htheman. What is the good word? This is Htheman, and you are now locked in to Real Talk Sports. Let's get right into it. Very lukewarm on the Eagles front. When you talk about the news that's been going down over the last 10 days or so, no surprises here. Of course, we're going to have to discuss Jordan Mailata getting re-up for a 3-year extension that's going to keep him with us for at least the next few years, 2028 season. He's going to get a 3-year extension worth up to $66 million. $48 million of it is going to be guaranteed. Mailata, one of the best left tackles in the NFL right now, of course, boasting from one of the best offensive lines in the NFL. So this is very huge news for us. I still believe we're going to go ahead and replenish the trenches, particularly on the defensive line. When you think about the loss of Hassan Reddick, of course, this is going to open up opportunities for Nolan Smith. It's going to allow for other guys to get busy. Of course, Bryce Huff coming over from the New York Jets, who we happen to just trade Hassan Reddick to. He's going to get his time and his opportunities as well. But you never know what can happen in an NFL season. And I believe that Howie Roseman has done a great job of proving that year in, year out. Last year, we fell short, tremendously short, especially when you're talking about the last 7 games and how that went up for us. Depth was an issue. And I believe that sometimes, not because you don't need something, that you shouldn't get it, especially when you're talking about a football roster on the trenches. I absolutely love 2 guys in the NFL draft this coming up season on the next couple of weeks. Actually, the NFL draft is going to be coming up. So I just love what these guys have been able to do. Cooper is definitely one of them from Texas A&M. I think this guy is going to be an absolute stud when you talk about what he's going to be able to do for a defense. And just coming into Vic Fangio's defensive scheme, he can do everything, a little bit of everything. He can cover, he can run sideline to sideline, he can blitz from the best of them, and he can also just get to that passer. So I think his guy is very versatile, who has a lot of tools in the toolbox, and he's going to be able to contribute. So Edgerrin Cooper, if he becomes available at 22, I do not see Howie Roseman not going to go draft him, because we talk about best available, and we talk about replenishing the well, if you speak. And it's not because you don't need something that you shouldn't get it, because you just never know. Again, Edgerrin Cooper, that's the guy I have on my draft board very, very high at 22, if he's still there. Cooper DeJean, of course, from Iowa. He's another player that I would definitely consider a guy that, again, just like I mentioned with Edgerrin Cooper, tremendous skill set, can do a lot, especially from a slot position, coming from a safety position. He's a guy who's very, very good in space, can cover a lot of ground, and I think he's going to be able to do wonders on our team or someone's team. But he's definitely a player, and we're going to get the best out of him if we're able to draft him at 22. And, of course, Avonte Maddox re-signing with my Philadelphia Eagles, one of the best slot corners in the NFL when healthy. It's just a thing. He's not healthy, so he can't stay on the field. We released him because we needed to save money against the cap, and he was due $7 million post June 1st. Luckily, we were able to restructure via the re-signing, and that's how he's going to be able to come back and battle for that slot position. And there's another thing I mentioned about him coming in and competing with some of the other guys that we went ahead and we picked up throughout the offseason when it was started really, really early. I think that is a huge sign for us because, for one, Avonte Maddox has been around for a very long time. And like I mentioned earlier, one of the best slot corners in the NFL when healthy. So he's not just come in to provide reassurance for us from that position, but he can also move some of these guys along, right? We got Keely Ringo, we got Eli Ricks, we have Mario Goodrich. We got a lot of young guys vying for position in the future, trying to compete. Zeke McPherson working his way back up an Achilles tear. And we still have yet to see what Zeke McPherson could provide for us. I mean, so far in his NFL career, all he's been able to do is play special teams. And he boasted a very good profile playing on the inside of the slot position, but he never was able to show us that. So I would love to see what he's able to do if he can come in camp and just battle it out and go ahead and get one of these spots. So it would be very good for him and Zeke McPherson. But Avonte Maddox, Jordan Mailata, I would say the 2 biggest signings, the 2 biggest pieces of news revolving around, of course, my Philadelphia Eagles. It's going to take into a lot coming in to the 2024 season. Also, with a side note before we continue to move along here in the NFC South review with grades, I just wanted to say, we have a blockbuster of a game in the NFL Week 1 opener in Brazil. It's going to be amazing. We're playing against the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love comes over with the plethora of weapons that he has on his side. Of course, boasting Josh Jacobs, who they just signed, and they got him to come play at the offense, and all the receivers they have provided over the last few years. But I'm not going to talk too much about them without bigging up my Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, us getting Saquon Barkley. Think about the possibilities of him playing with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, Jalen Hurts, that offensive line that I just mentioned. It's going to be one hell of a matchup in Brazil. Looking for, of course, my Philadelphia Eagles to go ahead and get that W. Let's just hope that's going to be the case, but it's going to be a real good game, I think, between both teams. It's a huge matchup on a huge announcement, especially considering the fact of where the Packers and how the Packers ended their season, or where they finished last year, and how my Philadelphia Eagles finished last year. So this is going to be a great matchup. We're going to be considered to be the home team in this international event for the NFL's first ever game in Brazil. So this is going to be a big deal. So hopefully we come up on top in that matchup. But again, Packers, Eagles, week 1. It's going to be a blast. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to see what they have to go on. So now, looking into the NFC South, we already covered the NFC East. We covered the NFC North. Now we're going to the NFC South. And we're going to just kind of move this thing along, making sure that we give the respect to all of the divisions, both sides of the conferences, both the NFC and the AFC. And these are my personal grades based on what the teams have done early on in phase 1 of the free agency period. And I'm going to go ahead and start with my Atlanta Falcons. Now, Atlanta, I have to give them a B. Considering the fact that they were very aggressive in wanting to get a quarterback, a lot of people have mixed feelings about Kirk Cousins going ahead and getting $180 million from the team. But think about Kirk Cousins in the last few years, played really amazing football, just hasn't been able to win those big games, those games that we remember him for, the games that will continue to elevate his profile as a potential Hall of Famer. If he wins a Super Bowl, you definitely have to consider Kirk as being one of those guys who might get that discussion. Never had an All-Pro, multiple Pro Bowler guy, but never had an All-Pro, never won a Super Bowl, never had an MVP. So his resume is still yet to be spoken for, but we don't know what's going to happen. He already expressed how happy he was to feel wanted, to feel loved. Again, $180 million. You have to feel loved, and you have to feel wanted when you get that type of money. But still, he gets an opportunity to come in with a very explosive young offensive talent. You talk about their number 1 draft pick from a year ago, and Bijan Robinson running the football. Tyler Algier is going to be there as a complimentary piece, of course, a guy who can potentially be a number 1 back somewhere else. This is a guy who's shown us not being a high draft profile guy like Bijan Robinson, but he showed us that he's able to be a grinder. Arthur Smith loved him. When he was the head coach, he gave the ball to him a lot. So I expect that to continue to be the issue. That to continue to be the theme there in Atlanta. We're running the football and, of course, throwing it down the field to tight ends like Kyle Pitts, Drake London, the newest signee, and Darnell Mooney. That's going to be a huge, huge factor for them. They got themselves one hell of an offensive complimentary piece when you talk about Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier. You got to run the football in the NFL, but the receivers, right? These guys have yet to really show what they can do with consistency at their beck and call. They haven't had that, right? They haven't had that consistency. When we talk about offensive coordinators blending in with the talented players, and they have not been able to see that. Arthur Smith, of course, predicated on the run first, is a guy that really loves to run the football. So maybe we didn't see Drake London at his best. We didn't see Kyle Pitts at his best. Darnell Mooney coming from a similar situation in Chicago when he was there with Justin Fields. Justin Fields obviously getting traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, another subject for another day that we pretty much spent a lot of time going over anyway in the pod. But this is going to be a good situation for 2 reasons. One, there's not a lot of pressure, right? Kirk Cousins coming in and just being a part of the growth of this offense. You have the familiarity with Zach Robinson, who comes over with Raheem Morris, the new head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. He'll be the offensive coordinator. Familiarity is there with Robinson and Cousins dates back to their time in Washington. Coincidentally enough, of course, Kevin O'Connell also on that Washington staff with Kyle Shanahan being the OC at that time. So that familiarity aspect, that's very important, especially for quarterbacks coming into situations when it's more on a rebuild, and which is exactly what the Falcons are going through right now, a change in culture, a change in the overall offensive construct, which is more predicated on the run. Now maybe they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more, right? So we'll see what happens with them. I give them a solid B. I think with the players that they're bringing in defensively, Raheem Morris is going to have his impact there, and he's going to be able to construct the team the way he saw fit. He did a wonderful job in LA over the past few seasons, of course, going to the Super Bowl with them. and ultimately winning it, and now rebuilding his profile. Raheem Morris, formerly a Tampa Bay head coach, Tampa Bay Buccaneers head coach several seasons back, and now gets the second opportunity to come in and be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. I think this is huge for the Falcons, and I also think it's big deal for Raheem Morris to get the second opportunity in a division that is pretty much winnable by any one of the four teams on a year-to-year basis. Let's go over the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, I'm going to give a C2. I feel like they left a lot of meat on the bone when you talk about players that they should have been bringing in. They weren't as aggressive early. I think they kind of stood pat. One thing about David Tepper, he is an analytic guy. He comes from an analytic background, so he's always trying to shoot darts in the dark, so to speak, and try to hit on these players. They lost so a couple key guys, Brian Burns probably being the biggest, traded away to the Giants earlier on for a couple months back. When you think about his impact on the defense, it's going to be surely missed. The Panthers have had this trend of letting guys walk away or letting guys go over the past several seasons. Guys who have really put in a lot in terms of building their culture, in terms of getting the fan base interested, right? So it's sad to see Brian Burns go. He had a huge impact on our defense and in the community. Frankie Louvu, another great linebacker. Unfortunately, he walked and tested the free agency market and got the love shown to him by the Washington Commanders. Dan Quinn in his first year, building that defense right away. They got Bobby Wagner as well as Frankie Louvu. Louvu, formerly of the Panthers, is gone. I'm not surprised about the Bradley Bozeman. He was released. He didn't really play that well for Bryce Young in his first year. Most of the sacks that Bryce Young took was because of Bozeman, because a lot of those sacks fell on his back. Not being able to hold up there. Dante Jackson, again, a terrific athlete when he was in university, came into the NFL. Injuries took a huge toll in this guy's career. So, again, not a player that I'm surprised got released. Unfortunately, I don't think that he has shown his full potential because, again, the injuries took the better of him. But hopefully somewhere down the line he'll be able to bounce back and get that opportunity to redeem himself elsewhere, wherever he signs in the near future. But the key additions, Jadeveon Clowney, Robert Hunt, Damian Lewis, Deontay Johnson, Jersey Jewell, Jordan Fuller, and DJ Wonnum, all contributors in their individual teams outside of, perhaps maybe, unfortunately, Deontay Johnson. This is a guy who had tremendous potential in Pittsburgh, had a falling out. Now reports are coming out that he had a falling out with the team and wasn't able to get back where he was supposed to get back to. I guess him and George Pickens, they were battling for the WR1 every week. And Deontay Johnson got traded to the Carolina Panthers, so he's there now. But all these guys contributed elsewhere whenever they played. Jersey Jewell coming from Denver, and you took a look at Jordan Fuller, where he was in the aforementioned Los Angeles Rams. Damian Lewis, Robert Hunt, offensive line, and that they needed that, especially with the fact that Bryce Young took the most sacks in the NFL last year. Robert Hunt signed a reported $100 million deal with the Panthers. And then you have Damian Lewis coming over from Seattle, Hunt from Miami. Jadeveon Clowney is a homegrown player, a guy that cut his teeth in South Carolina, goes back home, able to finish off his career there for the next 2 years. So it's really good for the Panthers on the defense. Offense, we still have some things that we'd like to see, especially when it comes to the offensive line. The coaching staff here, Dave Canales taking over as the head coach and moving away from the OC position in Tampa Bay. He's going to go ahead and call the plays as well and build his relationship, of course, with Bryce Young. So now Panthers, grading them a C. Moving to the New Orleans Saints, I'm giving the Saints a D. I don't like what the Saints are doing right now. I don't like how they're moving. They released Michael Thomas. I get it. Chase Young signs to a $13 million contract, but now he has to have neck surgery. So how long is he going to be out for? And is he going to be as effective as the $13 million they're paying this guy? Very quiet on the Saints front office front. I think they're just kind of shoring up stuff. One good thing I like what they did. Jonathan Abram gets a 1-year deal. He was signed away late for the practice roster and was able to rise from the practice roster and make his way up from a reserve role and started the last couple of games for him. Played really well in the last two, and they're bringing him back on a 1-year deal. This was a first-round pick from the Las Vegas Raiders a few seasons ago, and he just has not lived up to that name brand. So we'll see what he's able to do. They have a very young team now, especially on the offensive side of the football, with the exception, of course, of Derek Carr, who they signed to a big deal. So we'll see what the Saints do in the draft. That's where they're going to have to replenish their roster because in the free agency period. They didn't really make the moves that a lot of people were expecting. Again, moving on from Michael Thomas, I feel is a big deal. A franchise leader in receptions. Moving away from him, hopefully they go ahead and draft someone to take up that mantle. I love Chris Olave. I think he's best used in the slot. They still need to get another guy to complement him on the other side of the football. And we'll see if they're able to do that, especially in the draft coming up. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a D, probably the weakest grade in the division as a whole. And move on to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Love what the Bucs did. The Bucs, I think, did what they could do considering their cap casualties right now. They're pretty much going to be in cap hell for a little bit. So them being able to go ahead and sign back Baker Mayfield to a 3-year deal, using him as a bridge quarterback, so to speak, maybe drafting someone later in the draft in 2024 to develop further on down the line. But Mayfield comes in, played really well for them last season. So this was a good move from them, $100 million, 51 of it guaranteed. And then, of course, they signed Mike Evans back. Mike Evans, their best player in the last 10 years, without a shadow of a doubt, Mr. Consistent himself, signed a 2-year deal worth up to $52 million. And that $35 million isn't guaranteed in that signing. And this is a guy, again, that I talked about. Consistency is the staple, the hallmark, bookmark, if you will, when it comes to that. Mike Evans looks to end his career in Tampa Bay. We'll hope if he does that, he'll have an opportunity to get that call from the Hall of Fame one day, going to get himself in the cannon, because this guy is unbelievable. So with the Buccaneers going ahead and signing him back and adding Randy Gregory, and Bryce Hall to 1-year deals. Jordan Whitehead, again, he's a guy that I feel like injuries have kind of taken a toll on him, not being able to really show what he could do, but he gets that 2-year deal from the Buccaneers to come in, compete, and maybe even get one of those spots. So the Bucs, I think, did a really good job of shoring up the depth and just taking care of their guys. Levante David is another one of the players who went ahead and got another extension with the Buccaneers, along a mainstay, a first-round pick of theirs, coming back for his 13th season. I think this is huge. Unfortunately, they weren't able to sign Devin White as he signed with my Philadelphia Eagles. Levante has been one of those guys, again, a bookmark in consistency. When you talk about him and Mike Evans, hopefully both players get to end their careers in Tampa Bay. They played really, really good football for a very long time. So that's going to be it. Tampa Bay, I'm giving them the grade of a B because, again, they went ahead and they signed back guys who make an impact in the locker room. They're going to have to retool their roster in the draft. Again, considering where they were last season and the players they were able to bring back on team-friendly deals, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll come in and definitely compete. For one of the division leaders, if not the division winners this year, the Buccaneers will. So coming off a 9-8 season again with Baker Mayfield, they're in pretty good position. They got 2 picks in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th. They have a first-round pick, the 26th overall pick in the 1st round. They got some decent picks here, 7 overall. So I think they're going to be able to do some things, but they draft the players that they need in the right spots. And that's going to be it. So, again, Falcons, I'm giving a B grade. The Panthers, I'm going to give a C. The Saints, I'm going to give a D. And the Buccaneers, I'm going to go ahead and give them a B. And that's going to be the NFC South. The last and final division will be reviewed. It's going to be the NFC West. Look out for that episode this week. I'll be giving my grades on where they are, again, in terms of the signings and the free agency and the players that they've built up their roster with so far prior to the draft happening in a couple of weeks from now. So, quick sports recap. Yesterday, UFC 300. My goodness. When you talk about barn burners, man, nothing more of a barn burner than Max Holloway. These guys went at it yesterday. Without question, in my mind, this was a tremendous between both guys. I want to take a second to salute both guys because these guys are warriors. They battled for the BMF title. A title that means you're the baddest motherfucker around. And if you're gonna get into guys coming in and putting their money where their mouth is, these guys show you that they're into it, right? And always
points at the ground, and they just decide to wing it. And then Max catches him right here. There it is.
Oh,
just slapped him.
My goodness. Clean as can be. In the accumulation of damage, was too much for Gaethje to take. Holy smoke.
And this was a fight where everybody thought that Max was going to be outgunned.
He was not.
Look, forces it, points at the ground.
I love me a good battle. You know, I love me a good battle. I love me a slugfest. In the UFC, when you see these, man, you got to salute the guys. You just got to. You know, Max Holloway has been a grinder, a gladiator, man, in this sport for so long. And Justin Gaethje, of course, we know what he is and what he brings to the table every time he fights. Just pure spirit, pure heart, pure determination, pure motivation, pure dog, 100% dog. Both of these guys. It was a tremendous card. Alex Pereira, shout out to you. At the end of the fight, said that he's going to be moving up to heavyweight. John Bones Jones waiting in the wings versus Alex Pereira. Oh, wait. Yo, listen, if that fight happens, when that fight happens, that's going to be big. That's going to be a big ticket meal. That's going to be a big ticket fight. Alex Pereira, John Bones Jones. Perhaps, maybe in the future. We'll see. But that's it for the sports recap. I want to touch a little bit on WrestleMania. WrestleMania, to me, this WrestleMania 40, was probably the best WrestleMania that they've had in a really long time. I think that Triple H is bringing his vision into this era and starting it with a bang. The bloodline story. What can you say about Roman Reigns? What can you say about what he has been able to do for the WWE over the past 4 years as champions? The biggest ticket draw right now on this side of the last 10 years. There's no question about it. Roman Reigns, what he brings, the star power he brings to the table and elevating others around him. And that's what makes him a great leader, right? The way that he's able to elevate the competition. Cody Rhodes, the story, 2 years in the making. Really trying to build this guy's character up in other ways where when he was in the WWE, wasn't getting built up to be that guy. Cody Rhodes has always looked at himself as being that guy, being a guy that can carry the business. And now Roman Reigns handing over that title after an illustrious, legendary 4-year run. You got to tip your hat to him. But I'm excited about where this story is going. I'm just excited. The SmackDown that just happened on Friday, golly. Yo, Solo Sikoa is an underrated star in the WWE. I really believe it. Like, this guy can be a force to be reckoned with, especially now that they're giving him the platform to bring his character out a little more. First 2 years wasn't really that talkative. Didn't say much, just came in and beat the shit out of guys. Now you can start to see that psychological profile, the way that he talks, the way that he approaches his promos, the way that he intimidates. Right, Jimmy Uso, his older brother, beat the shit out of him on SmackDown on Friday. Brought his cousin in, Tama Tonga. Got to get familiar with this Tama Tonga guy. Didn't know much about him until I heard his name on SmackDown. But the Bloodline story, yo, that ain't going nowhere, man. It's not going nowhere. I appreciated the 2 triple threat matches that we got with Cody opening the show. Rightfully so. He opened the show on Monday night, thanking the fans and really just being so appreciative of everybody's support leading up to the big moment of him becoming the WWE undisputed Universal Champion. So salute to Cody Rhodes. But the guys, man, the triple threat matches, you had Bobby Lashley, AJ Styles, LA Knight, Jey Uso. You know, you have guys that are vying for the next position. Who's going to be the next guy, right? Kevin Owens, right, coming up. And speaking of Kevin Owens, Raw is going to be right here in MTL tomorrow. I'm scrounging, trying to find a ticket, 2 tickets to go to the show. It's going to be crazy. Sami Zayn defending the Intercontinental Championship against Chad Gable right here in MTL after losing to Roman Reigns, WWE Universal Undisputed Championship right here in Montreal, losing it in front of the fans, in front of his wife, in front of his family. Now gets to come back and defend the Intercontinental Championship that he won, that he beat Gunther to take it away from Gunther in Philadelphia in the link. Sami Zayn, now you're new WWE Intercontinental Championship. Champion will be defending the championship in Montreal tomorrow night on Raw. It's going to be epic. I'm pulling for Sami. Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi probably had an amazing entrance. The match was a little bit, I think, a not really that good. They're still finding a chemistry, still finding how each other performs, thinking about, certain moves and stuff like that. But I think they're going to be an impact faction whenever that takes place. Then you see Naomi again getting her name put in the top conversation of title carriers after Bayley just beat Io Sky at WrestleMania. That was a really good match, underrated match. Bayley against Io Sky for the women's undisputed championship. Bayley, of course, being the champion, and coming out on Friday Night SmackDown and asking Naomi to dance with her in the ring to go ahead and battle for that title. So WrestleMania was super dope. The Judgment Day, Damian Priest cashed in his Money in the Bank title and went ahead and got a championship. Now he's the champion, World Heavyweight Champion Damian Priest, off of the melee with Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. CM Punk being blamed by Drew McIntyre, of course, for losing the title when we all know it was Drew McIntyre's fault. He could have just celebrated, with his family, walked to the back, but he had to rub it in CM Punk's face. So that was very funny there. Oh, y'all, another huge moment for Philly. Jason Kelsey and, of course, Lane Johnson came out in support of the LWO against Legado del Fantasma. That was a very, very, very cool moment to see Jason Kelsey and Lane Johnson come out. I knew it was them right away. You just see the size of these guys. You knew it was them, especially Kelsey has a walk about him, fucking throws Dominic Mysterio into the ring post and then puts him back in the line for them to go ahead and get a quick win. The LWO did. That was a really cool moment, just seeing these guys come out. Jey Uso, one of my favorites right now in the WWE, man. He's got to get his moment, and he's got to get an individual championship to carry, whether that be Intercontinental Championship, U.S. Championship, or a World Heavyweight Championship. Yes, I believe Jey Uso could be a World Heavyweight Champion in the business. It's just a matter of whether or not the WWE is going to allow him to carry the torch, so to speak. So WrestleMania, super dope. Rhea Ripley, Becky Lynch started off night one. It was a really good match. I feel like Becky didn't really sell Rhea Ripley, and this is not taking away anything from Becky Lynch. I've seen Becky Lynch in some absolute barn burner matches. This was not one of those matches that I felt she left it all in the ring. So again, this could be something that maybe later on in the line you're going to be able to look at and be like, yo, this could be something, right? So I think that this is going to give them an opportunity to rise up just to see how well they're going to perform. Yeah. Let me give a huge shout out to Z. Was the Gaethje knockout the best knockout in UFC history? I will say yes, because I have not seen a knockout so impactful. Yo, the way the stadium popped yesterday for these guys, that was crazy. That was crazy. That last minute just shows you why the BMF title is so important. And just a sidetrack away from the WrestleMania talks, I had to answer this question because I feel like UFC 300 is going to go down as one of the best PLEs that we've seen in a very, very long time. And I love both of those fighters. Always have. Always been a fan of both guys. I think this is something that a lot of the UFC fans could appreciate, especially when these guys, they blow their UCLs, if I'm not mistaken. So both of them had an injury in the fight, and they're slugging it out, bro. Can you imagine the pain these guys are in? But that just goes to show the adrenaline rush, again, of how fighters are, what they have in their stomach to really push through and get them to the next stop, right? So I think that it was a great fight. I think it was a great way for both guys to go out, and salute to them again, man. I know I said it before, but salute to both guys. Absolute warriors, gladiators of the sport for a very long time, held their own in the ring, and they showed the respect to each other after the fight. So I think that was really cool of both guys. Again, WrestleMania, huge event. It's going to continue to get better and better. And I think that right now, all we can expect from the future is what else is out there? What else is next? Love the new direction with the Bloodline story. It's probably going to be the most talked about, the most investing story again for the whole year. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. But WrestleMania, if you could go on YouTubes and wherever you have your WWE stuff, go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. It's the best WrestleMania. The finisher between Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. Everybody that came out, John Cena, The Rock, even the fucking Undertaker. I was expecting Stone Cold to come out and stun everybody's last, but it didn't happen. And I think that maybe they're gonna save that a little bit for later on. You just never know. But this was a dope WrestleMania. So go ahead and check that out if you haven't already. top 5 sports moment, and we got to talk about Club Shay before we get up out of here. So my top 5 sports moments. Let's start with number 5. Yes, last night, UFC 300, probably one of the best PLEs so far of the year. I got to give my shout out to Max Holloway and Justin Gaethje, all the fighters, but those two especially, both deserving of the BMF title. They've been solid gladiators in this sport in the UFC for a very long time. Got to give credit where it's due. They made that shit cinema last night, so salute to them. UFC 300, definitely up there for my number 5 in my top 5 sports moments. Again, number 4, got to shout out men's basketball. UConn getting that championship. What could you say about college sports right now? The NIL coming in, I think it takes away from a passion, right, of the athletes. The athletes used to be so hungry and showing in determination to want to showcase their talents, but the NBA has always made it so that you can show your talent for 1 year and then spring jump and get into the league right away if you're that damn good. And I think that now, especially with the NIL deals and the opportunities to make that even more money in the NBA, it's just too good to pass up. So when you have consistency like UConn coming in, men's basketball, they're the truest of the bluest of the blue bloods. When you talk about Duke basketball program and North Carolina's basketball program, you talk about those basketball, Kentucky even, right? All the blues in college basketball. UConn is alone. They've won 6 national championships in the last 25 years. No other of the teams that I have mentioned and are powerhouses in their own right have won 6 championships. So UConn men's basketball definitely has to get a shout out. They're going to be my number 4 sports moment over the last couple of weeks. Number 3, women's. South Carolina, undefeated season, come back, seek vengeance, get their due against Iowa. Caitlin Clark, we're going to talk about her in a second, but definitely South Carolina, we got to shout them out. Dawn Staley, fellow Philadelphia Eagles fan, we got to shout her out on what she's been able to accomplish as a women basketball coach. What she's done for the sport as a player and as a coach cannot be understated. Her team really came with it this year. They had a lot of moments where they were kind of challenged, but they always were able to finish. They always found a way to win. And I think that's what makes this season so special for South Carolina, because they were able to tap into everything, the shooting, the defense, the offense, everything kind of clicked for them, and they never let each other down. Dawn Staley talks about her leadership. You talk about her humility, went ahead and thanked Caitlin Clark during her speech accepting the national championship, and celebrated Caitlin Clark. Well, rightfully so. Caitlin Clark, tremendous athlete, has done some really special things over the last few years, especially at the NCAA level. She has elevated the women's level, and that's all you've heard everyone say in the media, whether it be Stephen A. Smith, whether it be some of the most prolific women basketball players, female coaching basketball players. Everyone has talked about how Caitlin Clark has elevated the game and how she has brought the most eyes to the game. And I think that's very telling. You got to think about, obviously, her just being a brand in its own, right? Now going to be the number 1 pick in the WNBA. Can she get the WNBA to a point where now fans are more invested, seats are filled regularly, not just for Las Vegas, but for the other teams in the WNBA, because that's what she did in the NCAA, right? She was able to elevate the game so much so that it forced other programs to go ahead and get other players. Now, look, the competition there's always been special play in women's and men's basketball, but I think that the last 2 seasons has really highlighted how talented women basketball players really are. And I think Caitlin Clark has a huge part to do with that. So shout out to her, and shout out to the South Carolina Gamecocks for capturing the national championship this year for the women's basketball in the NCAA. And my moment numero 2, WRESTLEMANIA. Got to give it to my tribal chief, Roman Reigns of the Bloodline. Got to give it to him. What a hell of a run, Roman. A hell of a run for the Bloodline. Cody Rhodes now takes the torch, picks up where it left off, and leads the Paul Levesque Triple H era into the future. And wanting to just touch on Cody Rhodes a little bit. Cody is not really a guy that I always like, but I definitely respect. I got to give credit where it's due. This guy really built himself up into being a brand on his own. There's not a lot of performers, wrestlers that can say that. And in the business of the WWE, in the business of wrestling in general, man, you gotta have that gift of gab. They gotta be on the mic talking and getting the fans invested, whether you're a heel or a face. If you're able to tap into the fan base and just have them hanging on your every word, you talk about the impact that some of these guys make, right? So I think this right here is telling truly of Roman Reigns and his ability to elevate others around him. You talk about the Usos. They were at the height of their popularity, the height of their profiles when they were with Roman Reigns. Jey Uso. No one would have thought, definitely not me, no one would have thought Jey Uso would be a tremendous performer all by himself, but he has shown over the last couple of years that he's continuing to evolve as a frontline player for a heavyweight championship, and that is due to Roman Reigns. You talk about Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns' impact with him and his relationship with the Shield, Dean Ambrose now in AEW. Roman Reigns has always been able to elevate those around him. Sami Zayn, who for a little bit, we all almost forgot about this guy being how talented he was. And then Roman Reigns adds another layer to the bloodline. Paul Heyman leaving Brock Lesnar, going to Roman Reigns. Paul Heyman doesn't work with just anybody. You think about the names that Paul Heyman has managed throughout his career, what he's able to do as a creative, a guy that impacted the business. He's not just going to work with anybody exclusively. Roman Reigns had to be that special for Paul Heyman to go ahead and take an advance. So again, my number 2 moment in the sports this week, Roman Reigns, my tribal chief, Roman Reigns, and you're a tribal chief too. You should all acknowledge Roman Reigns at the end of the day. And the number 1 sports moment of the week, the Lakers, baby. You know what's crazy? I didn't want to talk about the Lakers because, the beginning of the year, they weren't doing so well. But what they've been able to do the last 2 months and putting themselves in position to be on top again. What can you say, ladies and gentlemen? The Lake Show is back. And a lot of people are going to be just shitting on me and talking that talk. But hey, man, I'm telling you, you look at the Lakers, look at their chances right now. Even if they don't get into the playoffs right away and they got to play into the play-in, they're the most dangerous right now because they hot and they clicking at the right time. AD and your king, LeBron James, putting it all together right when it needs to be put together. What can I say? The Lakers, the Lake Show, we back, baby. And who knows, might make a run. A lot of people talking about Denver, but listen, there's still some teams out there that I feel could make an upset. Denver, Lakers, Western Conference Championship, Part 2. Need I say more? If that's not box office, I don't know what is. But shout out to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's super dope too, what he's been able to do for the OKC Thunder, best team in the NBA record-wise. You talk about what they've been able to do, so shout out to them. But they ain't getting back to the Lakers. In a 7-game series, they ain't not getting back to the Lakers. I don't see it happening. I just don't see it. I got to shout out my Lakers. I got to shout out your king, LeBron James. I got to do it. You know what I'm saying? So number 2, of course, WrestleMania and my tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Number 3, we got to go to South Carolina Gamecocks and UConn basketball at number 4. And, of course, number 5 sport of the week. Honorable mention and the finale, honorable mention, Stephon Diggs traded to the Houston Texans. Does this make the Texans a top 5 offense now in the NFL? That's what I want to know. Does this make the Texans a top 5 offense in the NFL with Stephon Diggs getting traded? The moment number 5, we're going to have to go back to that recap. Y'all watch the episode. Y'all see it. But moment number 5 for me, Club Shay with Cam Newton. I love the interview. I love how authentic Cam was in himself, talking about some of the things that he's went through in his career. The big incident, of course, at his 7-on-7 CN1 tournament. He's tossing guys like a bag of potatoes and still keeping cool with the hat not coming off his head and no dreads flying off his head. So that was dope for him to show humility in that and talk about that and how it impacted those around him. So shout out to Cam for that. Shout out to Shannon Sharp too and his ability to sit down with celebrities, athletes, politicians, whomever, comedians, whoever he has on his show, and giving them a platform for them to feel comfortable enough to open up in some vulnerable things and share those things with you. Cam touched on a few of those things when I talk about vulnerability and how he lost in the Super Bowl and how that affected him mentally. So I think that's something that he could be accredited to. One of the questions that Shannon Sharp asked him, is he prepared to get that call from the Hall of Fame? Or does he think that it will impact his legacy? And Cam simply said, I don't care, because he made an impact. And it's true, he did. He made an impact with his time. When Cam came around, there was no quarterback like Cam Newton. There was none. And he dominated for a better part of the decade. The NFL MVP, brought his team to the Super Bowl. They were not able to get back on top of the mountain, and it's so difficult to be able to repeat that. We just saw the Kansas City Chiefs being able to do that, so shout out to them. But it's a rare feat, and Cam Newton affected the game the right way. Heisman Trophy winner, NFL MVP, offensive rookie of the year, the guy that checks off numerous boxes. I hope that he is considered to be in the Hall of Fame. I hope that he makes the Hall of Fame. But he said he just simply doesn't care because he made the impact that he wanted to make. Because when he looked back at being a child and looking up to all the players that he looked up to, specifically Michael Vick, and how he spoke on him, I think that he did it the right way. He did it his way. And you have to respect that, especially when a player has always walked that walk and talked that talk. So Cam Newton, definitely going to be one of my top sports moments this week. I should have had him at the top of that, but got really passionate about my tribal chief, Roman Reigns. Got real passionate about women's basketball with Caitlin Clark. And, of course, South Carolina Gamecocks, who are the story, who are the topic, undefeated season. We're able to win that championship. And you look out over on the men's side, UConn was able to do, and my Lakers resurging, climbing their way back up to the top of the mountain. Maybe a lot of people say that the King's time is done, but your king is still your king as long as he's in the NBA. So that's going to be it for Real Talk Sports. This has been Htheman. I signed in, and now I'm signing out. Peace and love always. Peace.